Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. Today is May 16, 2026, and it's the 3-year anniversary of my surviving an assassination attempt orchestrated by people I had reported in the Department of the Navy who used law enforcement. They used Montgomery County police and staged a swatting and a false flag. Of course, to help them was Jide Iwarire, a Howard University a Howard University um, professor who misrepresented himself as my uncle. He was my emergency contact at work. Now, so they staged this crisis. They had him file a fabricated emergency evaluation petition stating that I was going through some kind of mental health crisis. It was nothing could have been further from the truth. I have a family. I have an aunt who's a psychiatrist. I've done videos discussing this, so I'm not going to focus on that today. Um, this is Mental Health Awareness Month because it's May, and in order for us to just appreciate the magnitude of my mother's Thanksgiving, because my mom was so excited today, and she was talking about giving thanks to God. It's a 3 years anniversary since I survived the assassination attempt by Montgomery County Police and Jide Wariri and whoever, but she thinks Jide Wariri was the one who engineered this whole thing to try and get me killed. So in order to understand appreciate the magnitude, it's May 16, 2026. Already yesterday there was a death from a wellness welfare check, right? Um, a welfare check, unfortunately, when family a welfare check or emergency petition, that was what was used for me, an emergency petition. I wasn't going through any emergency petition. I'm not going to belabor that because I've already done videos explaining all of this. But this is something that family uses for their members who have a mental illness and they're going through a crisis. So sometimes they're trying to get an ambulance to take them to the hospital, or they're trying to get help. But it turns out that the people who manage the emergency crisis, wellness, welfare check, mental health crisis are cops, police officers who are not trained to do so. They end up killing most of the time. One out of four of every subject of an emergency petition is killed in the United States. One out of four of them, and uh, of those 25%, 18.75% of the fatalities are black men. So disproportionate rate of killing black men. Between 2015 and 2024, so over a 9-year period, 336 black men, right, were killed who were going through a wellness, a mental health crisis. And, they were petitioned or going through a welfare check. Unfortunately, as I said, when family are calling, I saw one of the articles. So I've been going through a number of these articles, these stories. When and one of the articles, the family was lamenting that they called for an ambulance, not the police, right? So that their family member was going through a mental health crisis, and they called for an ambulance, not the police. The police showed up, and they killed them. They murdered them. That's what happens all the time. Why should cops be the ones who handle mental health crisis or emergencies for family members? The community least likely to want a member uh, a member of the community, someone going through a mental health crisis, is their family. Their family love them, right? Your family is the least likely community that would want you dead. But for some reason, American states, American communities, they decide that the first responders to these mental health crises, these welfare checks, should be cops. The most likely organization, the most likely body, organization, community to kill black men. It is no secret that police departments in America are racist, right? They've been infiltrated by members of white supremacist groups, that are dubbed to domestic terrorists. They're just wearing a badge, right? They're just legitimizing their animus towards black men, black people, and people of color. Um, and moreover, even if they weren't, the other thing is they're not qualified. They're not trained for a mental health crisis, right? They're not trained. They're not medical doctors. They're not clinicians. They're just not trained for it. In fact, to enter the position, the job of a cop, right? Um, it requires minimal qualifications. They hardly qualify. They don't even need a GED, as I understand, to become cops. You just have to be in the process of doing your GED, right? And then the caliber of the people who become cops, who go into law enforcement. Just today, I was reading an article, the story of a police officer, Arthur Seal, who is in, because what I was doing was I was researching um, these hacks and quacks, the issue of hacks and quacks regarding diploma mills and people misrepresenting their credentials, claiming their PhD. So I was just doing some research on that, and I came across a guy who got his a former police officer who was convicted of kidnapping and murder, Arthur Seal. Um, that he got a degree. He went on to study and got some learning on the state's dime from an online university. I think Capella University, right? That he got his education. I don't know if it was Capella University, but an online university while in jail, while serving a life sentence. So he murdered an American citizen, and the state is paying for him to get an education, to get a PhD, right? He kidnapped. He was a former law enforcement agent. He was a former police officer. So these are, and I watch forensic files. I bet you at least a third of the psychopaths, the serial killers, the rapists are cops. This past week, the number of arrested predators that are cops, right, is astonishing, astronomical, abysmal, right? So the caliber, the quality of the people who become cops, they're not the sort of people that are compassionate or sensitive or even wise or clever or humane enough to be first responders for welfare checks. Because these people, they're not criminals, right? They're not calling the cops for mental health crisis. They're not calling the cops to apprehend a criminal. They're not criminals. But unfortunately, there's this psychophobia in America, sadism in America, that criminalizes people who have a mental illness. I saw a very disconcerting video of a woman a substitute teacher who was having a mental health crisis, and the way she was dehumanized, the way she was humiliated, she was handcuffed in front of her students. What she did, but the thing is, they all knew that she was going through psychosis, right? They knew she had mental health issues, and it was very unfortunate. So they criminalize people who presume to have a mental illness. I don't have a mental illness. I've never suffered from a mental illness. But a man, an evil, fabulous, very evil Howard University professor, Jide Warere, misrepresented himself and committed perjury. Went to commit, lied, but he didn't do it alone. It was orchestrated. And so the way the police officers, they staged the whole thing, right? They staged the whole thing. But I had I had an impeccable record. And I was a middle-aged man. On the emergency petition, they intentionally excluded my age. The man said he didn't know my age, and he was claiming he was my uncle. And it happened in my home. I lived alone, right? So they staged the whole thing. I'm not going to belabor this because I've done videos explaining what happened. But the fact that the way the cops came, like they came to pick a terrorist, that was one of the things that terrified me. I was falsely imprisoned. They committed crimes. They falsely imprisoned me, blocked my people. In fact, they evacuated my building, told my neighbors to stay in, or kept them out, and told them I was a criminal holding a woman hostage. I have a, they did, I have a neighbor who's a friend who knew me, right? Who told me. He recorded it and he told me two of my neighbors, they still can't believe I was the one who was removed. They believe the person was killed, that I was killed in the interaction, right? Because the way they removed me, oh my goodness, it was brutal. I was bleeding, permanent scarring, right, from where they shot me, right? They called me, they used racial epithets on me, right? In the hearing, administrative hearing. I was a law-abiding American citizen. I'm a Christian. You know, the community, that place. I had been approached by someone to run for political office. Not even when I graduated from law school. I have at least 4 university degrees. When I'm sitting in court, I look that I have more university education, more university degrees than the judge and the state attorney uh, prosecuting me, persecuting, using the state's office resources to wrongfully persecute me. I have more education than them combined, right? I could probably come from a better, more respectable family. I respect my own family. My father was a bank chairman, bank CEO, right? But law-abiding person. I'm my own by my own merits. But I was dehumanized. I was removed naked from my home in handcuffs, bloodied, and they dumped me in a hospital, right? So the police don't have the sensitivity, and they were recording me. They committed a crime. Video voyeurism, that's a crime. They recorded me without my consent, naked, placed me in public nudity, exposed me, subjected me to public nudity, right? Removing me from my apartment where I had a right of privacy in my home because they didn't alert me to why they were there. I didn't know why they were there. And they gaslighted me. And then I've done videos explaining what they did. So I wasn't going through any mental health crisis. The GDA warrior went to lie to my mom that I was strung out on cocaine when they got me. So I want to know, did he drug me? He conspired with someone to drug me. Was it cocaine they laced stuff with? I don't know. So, but in any event, let me get back to just the killings from emergency petitions this year alone. May 15, um, somebody was killed, welfare check, black man. May 14 as well, same thing. In February in Connecticut, there was a uh, May 27th, 2026, black man again, welfare check, was killed. Uh, this time they fired the cop that killed him, in March because of the outrage, the backlash by the black community, NAACP, and also because on just a week before, on February 19th, 2026, another black man had been killed in a welfare check as well, right? There was a terrible video that I just watched that happened this May in is it Clay County or something? Anyway, in Florida, a grandfather. He was a big man, disabled, and it was a welfare check. For Department of Health, Human Service, and he was holding a knife. Sometimes, and then these cops were shouting. He was unarmed. He dropped the knife. He threw it away. They were shouting, and it was execution style. They didn't know somebody was recording them. These cops, first of all, it's disproportionate force. A knife can't do anything against several cops wielding guns, right? Automatic weapons that will kill that person. A knife can't do anything. By the way, what we've been saying about training of cops should be able to disarm someone. There's several cops. You should be able to. You should know martial arts. Martial arts, you can disarm someone holding a knife. So if our cops can, maybe that's a way to qualify cops as well. Cops who can't do martial arts shouldn't be cops, right? They should be able to disable someone holding a knife. You're holding a gun. There's several people backing you holding a gun. should be able to disable someone holding a knife with your bare hands without using weapons. Or you have a baton, you have a stick, you have something, a prod that you could prod, you could disable them. You could hit them, you don't have to shoot them. There's several people. But the thing is, these are just trigger happy cops. They're killers, they're psychopaths who join the police department, right? I tell you, the when you watch forensics files, you will see that the number of people who are the culprits, right? They're ex-cops or they're involved in law enforcement. They're cops. I was just reading this story today of this guy, Arthur Seal. Disgusting. A police officer, former police officer. He had a lavish lifestyle that he couldn't maintain, and he kidnapped the president or vice president of Exxon International, the oil company. Kidnapped him. Was trying to get ransom money, get money, a hostage situation, trying to get ransom money, but he ended up killing the guy, right? Him and his wife. So these are the people who join the police force. They're people who are not, they're psychopaths. They don't have the character. So they should, one, clearly, I'm not saying, well, I'm not the sort of saying defund the police or ban, defund or ban the police. No, no, no. We need the police, right? But we need people who are qualified, who are humane, who are of good character. The people who become police officers right now are not of good character. They're not even intelligent. You should watch the videos. The way they were killing this guy, several of them, several cars, just one kid, the 21-year-old guy that they killed as well this May. This was in Michigan, I think. He's holding a knife, just a knife. He can't do anything. So they disabled him. They shot him, first of all. They shouldn't have shot him, right? Tasing would have done the job, but they shot him. He's on the ground, and he puts the knife to his neck. And they keep shouting, drop the knife, and then he wants to kill himself. They help him do the job, and they kill him. They shoot him fatally. They're so dumb, right? They shoot him for several minutes. He's dead. They shot him, and they're just still saying drop the knife. He's holding the knife, right? I've been tasered when they attacked me in my home, right? The reason I had a knife, right, was because first of all, I was confused. I didn't know why I was being gaslighted. I'm not a criminal, right? I didn't know why I was surrounded by cops. So many. They had a drone. They came. You should have seen the force, the way they came, right? Helicopter. It was like they came to pick a terrorist. 40 cops. They locked me in. And I'd come out. When I came out, I didn't know why. Because the only reason I had a knife was because one, I had been locked in my apartment, right, with a band. They used a band to lock me in. So I wanted to cut the band. And then I was stunned. It was no longer there. When I came out, there were all these cops pointing guns at me. So that shocks you, right? That just, it's like you're like a deer in front of headlights. That these cops can't understand shock, the sort of shock that someone is in, someone who's not used to violence or whatever. The shock, the fear that just hits you. That they don't understand that. So they do it intentionally to shock, gaslight, and scare you and use it as an excuse to kill you, right? To kill black men. So I fortunately was disabling the knife. I put the knife in the wall, raised my hands. First of all, I even thought it was a staged thing. This is the world where they're punking people. I thought I was being punked because on that day they had scheduled me, the Navy scheduled me to have this physical and psychological test, Navy General Officers Professionals program, right? So what are the chances that the day the Navy said I'm supposed to have this thing, some people, it had never happened before in my life. Cops just show up. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not a criminal. There's no reason for cops to come to my home. I live alone. And they're just pointing guns at me. And then they're shouting, drop the knife, but they're tasing you. When they're tasing you, they're so dumb. Everything stiffens up. So yes, it was God who saved me, right? Because I stiffened up. I was holding the knife. Well, first of all, you can't even hear anything. It was me watching the videos I could hear. Well, first of all, it was just like noise. Of what is going on here? Because you're in shock, and they're tasing you, so everything stiffens up. And the way they tased me, 5 people were tasing me. They were trying to kill me. I was struggling strength that I must not die. That was always going through my mind. I was struggling. No, 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 no. Because it was like the way they were tasing me, I was about to die. They were trying to kill me with the tasers. And it was God that saved me that day. So uh, when they're shooting this old man, they at first shot him and he was immobile. He was on the floor. And they did a final execution, shot him again. Fatal shot. They're blood, they're just, they're trigger happy killers. That's what these people are. Bloodthirsty killers. That's what these cops are right now. I saw another one, the kid, it's anyway, it's a terrible situation, right? Cops shouldn't be the first responders for mental health crisis. Having a mental illness is not a crime, but as it stands, America criminalizes people with a mental illness, right? I don't have a mental illness, but if somebody should represent, because they can do it to anybody, they did it to me, right? Somebody lied you, somebody who doesn't like you, they emergency petition you, they can swat you. So that's what Jide Wariri did. He did a swatting. He fabricated and made a false emergency crisis because, one, I told him, I don't want you to come to my home. That's my right. So he was violating my privacy, my constitutional rights. He was trespassing. I don't own a gun. I've never owned a gun. I never threatened it. Everything he said was a fabrication. And he's recanted it, right? And by the way, if somebody has anything against you, you have a right to your day in court. As it stands, cops are just executing people, whether they're accused or not. But in these instances, it's sad that it's supposed to be loved ones who are calling for a wellness check, right? A welfare check that people should, that they should get their family loved ones to the hospital to receive care, right? But cops are the ones that are used, and they're not qualified to do so. They're not medical practitioners. They're not qualified to do so. And the cops come with disproportionate force and malice in their hearts that, okay, they have another black man to kill. And they kill black men. This is what's been going on. You could just watch the videos, in this new age. And the thing is, they'll lie, they'll fabricate things, they just keep telling lies, right? They keep telling lies. I've experienced it, so I know. I know how the cops lie, right? And Congress needs to act to take, the most racist institution in America is the police force, police departments in America. That's the most racist institution. And they shouldn't be the instrument, that um, communities use as first responders for black families, for any family. Again, they're not qualified, right? They're not a mental health crisis. It requires compassion, care, and it's just not what these cops uh, are made of. They don't have compassion. They don't have care. They're thugs. You see them. They're not intelligent people, right? They're very dangerous people, and they're armed. They're a threat to black communities. Law abiding. It concerns me because I'm a law abiding black man. I'm a law abiding person, right? I respect authority. I don't break laws, right? It's been 3 years. I've had these false charges against me. The cops who were supposed to apparently come and help me for a wellness check are the ones who attacked me, assaulted me, and then claimed I lied that I assaulted them. when the body cam shows it's a fabrication, and they've kept me from working there. And they have these crooked judges like Judge James Bonifant, Judge Baby Berry that support them. So it's a crooked racket. Again, it was a false flag engineered originally by the Department of the Navy to obstruct justice, right? My family, everybody knew there was nothing wrong with me, right? It's a new age. There's evidence. I was talking with my family. I was at the gym the day before, May 15, nothing, But these people are barbaric. They're straight out of the ark. They're yahoos. They tell lies. They fabricate evidence, false witnesses. They do all sorts of stuff. And you can see when in the body cams, when they're killing these their victims, right? Right, who've been, victims, their families have, called emergency services to help them in a mental health crisis. The police lie about how they want to kill them. They were trying to kill them. They're trying to kill people and things like that. So something needs to be done, right, to stop the cops from being first responders, right, to save the lives of not just black men, but the community. Because right now, these people are executioners. They're looking like Nazis the way they do it. Just watch Anyway, my name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.